Hello, this is Daniel Leon. I don't know if I can pre-record a short video because I want to talk longer than 15 seconds, but I'll do my best to upload a short episode at least. This is going to be Becoming After Daniel and the Daniel Leon Gazette Pod conjoined. And as you can see, I painted up my face. And I just finished, I added some more painting because I wanted it to be like a little bit clearer than it was before because I have bad lighting in this room. So what I thought I would do is just take this time to do a vignette about the same length as we used to see on TV. And this is going to be like an introduction to my vignette, then we're going to do a separate video vignette. What a vignette is for people who may not quite understand what a vignette is like when you see actors and actresses on variety shows, whether they're singing or ventriloquism or just comedians just coming up with different character ideas. They take about a minute or two to do a monologue where you talk to somebody, let them know what they're up to, and that's what a vignette is in wrestling. You just let the audience know what your gimmick is about in wrestling. So first thing I would say is I know it's gonna sound kind of cheesy, but I am a huge fan of Ric Flair ever since I was a kid. So I always loved his quote rap, if you could call it that. And one of the very first vignettes of that I know of, which was unusual for the time because they usually would interview wrestlers and have them get in the ring. So I'm pretty sure when Ric Flair had this idea to to pre-record himself, letting people know what he's about, I'm sure that was very original for the time. Where he was dressed up in a suit, he had a couple of women with him to escort him into a jet. That was the very first original jet flying promo he ever cut on himself. And I know we usually say cut because we're talking against someone, but because it's a video, I think that's why they use the term cut. This is like the first pre-recorded video promotion he ever made on himself. And in Hollywood, we would say cut because they because they say roll it. So what happened was in real life, as he shared on his definitive Ric Flair collection, he was on his way to Greg Gagne's wedding reception. And it may have even been the wedding, I'm not sure. And by the way, he was friends with Greg Gagne in high school. So they were always close ever since they were in school together in Minnesota. And even even as early back as the filming was done, he had a flair, pun intended, for fancy things. So this was just classic pro wrestling 101. This vignette because it's taking parts of your personality and just playing that up. And for him, it was not pretend that was his real life personality. So when he says limousine right and jet flying, of course everybody knows the rest. And everybody who's ever followed his career knows that's how he really was because he kayfabe the whole thing. And kayfabe is another way to say on screen, and everything because you wanted people used to want the audience to believe it was real. So if you saw them on TV and if you saw them in person, you got the same thing because that's how serious they were about making you believe this was real. So what that has to do with me is if I was to describe myself, the things that I've always loved, things I always loved or doing is I played solitaire the other day. So as you can see, I love to shuffle cards, and I started painting up my face about 2 years ago, I think it was, because ever as far back as like say 2 years, I've been thinking about becoming a manager. So in wrestling, and I thought, well, I always loved face painting. I always love seeing people with face paint on, so why don't I try that? And when I do it, it really gives me an idea of how to be more like more like an exaggerated version of myself and just say whatever comes to my mind. Because to be honest, there's a lot of times in my life where I did just like that and I had no idea the response is gonna get. Now, I'm not saying I'm a rude person by any means. No, but I never understood the right and the wrong way of speaking because I thought, in my mind, if my brother or my mother or even my father hadn't have told me what's deemed appropriate and inappropriate, I never would have known to be quiet. And it's not that what I necessarily want to say is wrong, it's that the way you say it is a big deal. So that's why, if anybody wanted to know the purest and the most honest reason why I paint up my face, it's because I always loved face painting. I loved seeing Hawk. I loved seeing animals, Sting, Ultimate Warrior. Um, Trying to think of all the different people I've seen with face paint. Even the missing link, who was about as unusual as you could get. Even for face painting, he was unusual. And I also thought I was never really a rock and roll fan, but when I saw the movie Rock Toxin, which is supposed to be a fictional cousin band to the real life band Kiss, and I thought that's interesting too. So when you realize how even rock and roll stars can use paint, I said, well, since the paint gimmick has been as over with the audience as the mask gimmick, why don't I try either face painting or putting on a mask? Because either way, even liked masked wrestlers, and my uncle a few years ago, a few months before he died, even he asked me why Americans don't wear masks like Mexicans do, and I just told him in all honesty, it's because I believe that Mexico or Puerto Rico, for that matter, those are the only areas where wearing masks is considered a cultural thing. So that's why you only usually see luchadors with the masks on today, because that's the only that's the only area where the culture never discontinued wearing masks. But yeah, I always loved seeing masked wrestlers. They're always amazing to me. And when you think about it, a mask, a hooded mask, It's just like wearing face paint. The only difference is with face paint, you have an idea of what the person looks like without it on. So if I cannot put on face paint without my face breaking out, I would definitely go to highspots.com and order a mask for myself. Would even look into seeing if there's a way to specialize the mask to where it could be like one of the designs I would want to paint up my face with. Okay. Thank you, and I know it was longer than most people could do a wrestling vignette, but I just thought taking this time to do a short video episode about what a vignette is would be helpful. So my next video, I will do an actual vignette. Thank you and goodbye.